G'day guys, bonjour and kia ora. My name is Wildkard, and yes guys, I am very excited. First of all, I would like to let each and every one of you who's watching my video, whether you're a Kiwi, whether you're a French fan or a Wallaby fan or a South African, from the bottom of my heart, I do very much appreciate you watching this channel because rugby is for everyone, and especially in my part of the world, rugby is not for the billionaires, okay? I am so privileged that each and every one of you watches my content, and I think this result, once again, is a disgrace to the top 14. If they allowed their top players to play in this match, history could have been made. This French team was absolutely outstanding. Fabien Galthié did such a great job with this team, right? Despite my criticism to all the players that hasn't played much games at all in the international test levels, every Frenchman came in, knew exactly what they needed to do, understood the game plan, right? And just did the fundamentals really well, okay? They didn't have to, like, the majority of the team didn't have to do anything fancy. They knew they're just there to grind down the All Blacks. And boy, these Frenchmen grinded like grinded like, I was going to say, like, Napoleon or something at Waterloo, but that's a bad example. But, they really put the All Blacks to the sword here. And you can see that the All Blacks were frustrated as a result. And a lot of the players, a lot of the forwards were doing a little bit too much, right? Doing a little bit too much out of the comfort zone and leading into mistakes, leading to handling mistakes, disconnected in the options. And you end up with, you get a sense of a frustration, a bit of a rush, rushing some of the players from the All Blacks. And as a result, boy, the All Blacks really almost lost this one. And like the super stuff on the French team really showed just another level above. Some, Damien Penaud, Jelly Bear, Matthew Jelly Bear, Luku just absolutely stepped out. And Adesok Bear, obviously as well, just absolutely carry the game from the French side. Every time those guys got the ball, they look dangerous, and they know how to play with each other, right? A lot of those guys from Bordeaux, and they just knew how each other going to play, and the combinations from those players was more than sufficient to break the defensive line of the All Blacks. Whereas for the All Blacks side, in my opinion, right, I felt like, I don't know why they do this. It's like, do you have a quota or something that you have to have a certain amount of Crusader players in the team, certain amount of Blues players in the team? Because I felt like a lot of the connection, the combination from the Hurricanes team in terms of just from that Super Rugby final was disconnected because of the players from the other teams being brought in. They're great players, right? Like Tupaya is a great player. D-Mac is outstanding. But they just a little bit disconnected. The rhythm is a little bit off. You can clearly see this, especially from Wildkard, right? He is someone that, like, just so good at the game, just doesn't, like, he plays at such a high tempo, right? There were a number of times where he passes just went to nobody. And it's something that I don't think I've seen from Wildkard during Super Rugby. There was one pass where he literally threw it out into the sideline. And I think that is because, right, it's just players being a little bit disconnected. Like, this little bit of unfamiliarity with the players' speed and rhythm, and as a result, they're just not able to get them. There were so many mistakes that should not have happened. That was from the All Black side, and just really made the game a lot harder than you really just really should be, right? And this is something that I think some of the French fans might get the reference. This is a game where I thought could be the Toulon, the battle of Toulon for one Mr. Ruben Love. Now, a lot of might say this might not be his best game, and this is definitely a massive step up from Super Rugby level. The amount of spaces it was given is a lot less. Just the sheer pressure you're out there, you can clearly see from his goal kicking as well. But one thing I did notice that, when he plays in the same style like he did in Super Rugby, right? A lot of the game throughout the All Blacks are a little bit too flat. And when they were too flat, they're just heavily rely on that post-contact offload to get over the advantage on it. Sometimes players are a little bit disconnected and they're leading to mistakes. And Ruben Love really isn't used to that style of rugby. This style of rugby that he's used to is this one here, right? Where he's behind a carrier in front. If we're just going to watch this little play from Hurricanes, he's almost like a second playmaker come in, right? This is where Ruben Love is dangerous. And if you go back and watch the game, watch the All Black game, you will see that Ruben Love, when the All Blacks set him up in this sort of position where he gets the backdoor play, the All Blacks look extremely good, and he's very, very comfortable doing this. But a lot of times, because of, I think, the changes in the backline, the changes in some of the, obviously not everyone's from the Hurricanes, the disconnection between the players are leading into the fact that they don't do this very much, and everybody's very, very flat for the majority part of the game. When they had a bit more depth, especially in that before the end of the first half, they look a lot better. Than they look a lot better, and especially Ruben Love look a lot more comfortable in his position there. Is this his battle? Is this the battle for too long for Ruben Love? I don't quite think so. The battle for too long is where basically Napoleon made a name for himself, and he basically became, the world famous, tyrant that became the emperor of France in just the 5 or 7 years or something unheard of. And it all started at the battle for too long, where he stepped up as a young man to make a name for himself. Did Ruben Love make a name for himself in this game? I don't quite think so. If I was to think about people making a name for themselves, I would think that in a big name, I would think like, Dan Carter in the second test of Lions tour in 2005. That's sort of the performance I would consider as like, a statement-making performance for a youngster. I don't think this is quite it for Ruben Love. So maybe you have to be the Ireland game that he'll have to step up for that. The line-out for the All Blacks was once again I don't know why Asafa Almoa wasn't starting. The lineouts were horrendous. A lot of times the French I think the French stole one. The lineout not straight, and then the French when the French do their lineouts, a lot of them a lot of those were not challenged at all by the All Blacks, and as a result, there was the contest around the lineout was just really needs quite a bit of work. The scrum was a little bit dominant for the All Blacks. A lot of times you get the hit right away, and the scrum collapses. There were a few scrums I had to look at. I felt like the All Blacks may have pulled it down, but Luke Pearce was pretty adamant that it was the French collapsing as a result of the engagement. And Luke Pearce, I think the referee did a great job this game, not letting like penalties and scrums being reset constantly, and just really gotten hold of the game and played on the scrums, and then players trying to milk penalties and whatnot, and just not having that at all. I think Luke Pearce did a really good job in controlling that overall. And I do think that both teams, I was really happy to see that both teams were keen to attack. I think the All Blacks definitely showed more determination and more guts in the game, and by not just kicking penalty goals, except for like one at the end, which I think that was, in my opinion, I thought you should have gone for the try, and Jeff Wilson agreed with me. And I just think that they did end up winning, but I do think that was a moment where they mentally could have got them switched off a bit. The French, could have been just a little bit, one penalty away from winning that, right? So I do feel like moments like that. I think the decision making needs a little bit more tougher, especially considering you backed yourselves for the majority part of the game, not going for the penalty. In fact, I think there was a bit of booing from the own All Black fans when that happens. So yeah, it is just one of those things where I think that you got to push yourself a little bit in that situation, especially to that 15 minutes. Even if you don't score, I think that you can still salvage it. Whereas mentally telling yourself that you're gonna just hang on to a small margin could actually hurt you, like almost did here against the French near the end there. So there were a little bit of few surprising changes for the All Blacks as well. I was surprised that they took off Satiti. They took off Peter Larkai for Satiti and not Luke Jacobson. I thought it was a bit interesting. I thought Larkai is a little bit more clinical. Jacobson made a few mistakes early on. He got better there later on, which is good, which is what you want to see from players, right? Especially as a team. If things aren't working for you, you switch it up. It's a hallmark of a good team. So I don't mind. I don't mind that. I'm glad that he fixed it up. So that's okay. But I still didn't think that Larkai should be taken off for Satiti. I think Jacobson should be taken off for Satiti. And also the substitutions are a little bit too late for the All Blacks, whereas the French was able to put Antoine Hastoy on the field almost immediately in the second half and leading into a try, whereas the All Blacks were almost like, rigid, extremely rigid on their substitutions. And I thought, especially with players like Fihi, Fanga, and Nofo, you could have put him on a little bit earlier. He's a winger. Like you're not going to lose the game because of winger. Like let's really, if you actually lost the game because of winger, then you got bigger problems with the selections than that. So I thought he should have got him on maybe like 30 minutes, even a half time to just really give him some time to shine and put some more pressure on, put some more speed on the field, and too conservative in terms of the substitution there as well from the All Blacks team. So yeah, with that being said, I think that's all I wanted to say. Line out I think that is pretty much all. I think D-Mac did a pretty good job as a second playmaker, especially when Ruben Love isn't stepping up. Normally at Hurricanes, when Ruben Love isn't stepping up, Jordy Barrett's gonna step up. But I thought Jordy Barrett had a pretty bad game this week. This was one of the, like, especially that first try was one of the worst defense I've ever seen from Jordy Barrett, like ever. Okay, not just like ever. I've never seen Jordy Barrett defensively that poor ever. But that was, that's, everybody has a day off, I guess. And D-Mac, I think, stepped up to fill that second playmaker when Ruben Love was a little bit under pressure. Did a really good job there. So I think that deserves a nod there for the young fella there. And one last thing, I think this is a really, really, really important and really interesting, because the meta, the game, the style of rugby that you see in Test rugby nowadays is the ball kicking attack, right? We've seen box kicking used as an exit, but more and more now, but the Springboks really likes to use the box kick as an attacking option, and neither of these teams did that. Very few of it, if they did. It's not definitely on a game plan that either team was willing to deploy, and there was a lot more running rugby, a lot more, wider ball handling rugby. Obviously, the rush defense from the French was really impressive. So the All Blacks, unlike Super Rugby, if you watch the two games back to back, the space that you're given, right, just the space you're given from the defense after the ball is passed out from the nine, just the space is immediately shut out from the defense a lot faster in Test Rugby than what you were seeing in Super Rugby. So that really makes it difficult for the players, and a lot of passes had to be really quickly flung across, which means that the players are not used to this, and it also means that you need to be deeper, right? You need to be a lot deeper than you are doing in Super Rugby. You can't just cheat those few meters, and then you're just going to get caught. So that's another thing that I think some of these players needs to be adjusted. I just want to say one more thing. So 2 weeks ago, I made this video, and I predicted that Dupont's going to come over, right? He's going to maybe play in the second test against the Wallabies. He may just be a tourist and pretend that he's going to be around, and they might even come up with an excuse like, oh, his legs, hamstrings are feeling a bit tight or something. Okay, so I predicted 2 weeks ago that Dupont is not going to play, despite the reports that he's going to play. And then, it turns out, exactly. He's not going to play because of a leg injury, a calf injury, right? Exactly like I predicted. And I thought I might be Nostradamus. So I went and bought myself a lottery ticket today. So maybe if you don't see me, guys, if I stop making these videos, it means I've won the lottery, and I would never come back because I would be rich. Okay, so if you don't, so this might be my last video ever, right? So just so you guys know that. Anyway, we're moving on. Okay, and now that all of you guys are gonna curse me for try to jinx me for not able to win the lottery, but I'm telling you, I have a feeling I'm gonna win lottery as a result of that Anton Dupont call. But let's quickly have a look at the stats. I gotta go to the Wallaby game soon. Okay, I'm running out of time. So yeah, 5 tries to 4, 507 run meters to 479. Lots of running for both teams. So that's just really, really good, exciting rugby. 26 defenders beaten, 25 for the French. 13 turnovers conceded against the All Blacks. 9 against the French. More polished around those handlings for the French. 183 tackles made for the All Blacks. 25 missed tackles. 192 for the French. 26. So pretty much similar to completion rates there. Not much kicking. Like I said, 17 for the All Blacks. 21 for the French. Bunch of missed conversions too. And 1 for the French as well. So I think Ruben Love, especially considering how good he's been kicking in Super Rugby, I'm a little bit surprised. I think there was 1 miss by Ruben Love and 1 miss by D-Mac. So I'm just going to take that back. 500 raw kick from hand, 504 meters kick from hand to 538 for the French. So yeah, this was really, some of the test matches could balloon well over 1,000. In this sort of engagement. So this was just really, really good raw hands-on rugby there. Line outs 9 for the All Blacks, 2 lost. 8 for the French, 2 lost. I don't think this is that great for both teams. I think the All Blacks were more annoyed by some of their silly mistakes there than the French. Scrum, lone loss for the All Blacks, 1 loss for the French. Like I said, Luke Pearce seems to be thinking that it was being pulled down. It seems to be the French was collapsing. In my opinion, I thought the Denver Bomber was being pulled down by De Groot. But Luke Pearce didn't seem to be the case. And penalty count, 9 for the All Blacks, 9 against the French. Nothing too crazy. There's 1 yellow card for Ruben Love. high shot to the head. I think there might be a high shot in the second half with Jordy Barrett, and it wasn't checked, but you know, whatever, right? So anyway, let's do a quick recap of the game. So yes, first of all, the first try, 1 minute in the game, the French had, I think they had a line out. The ball kind of came out wide to Damien Penault. First of all, Damien Penault was just incredible leading into this first try. He was down on the sideline, made a break, and then he swung himself back in the midfield, and then punched through the middle, essentially created an extra man in the middle field, and then just sliced through straight through between 12 and 13 channel. And I do think that Jordy Barrett and Quinton Tupac a little bit disconnected because they haven't played together, which and both of them played 12. Quinton Tupac plays 12 as well. So I do think that's a disconnection there. And again, Jordy Barrett, this looks like the worst defense I've ever seen. He just looked like he gave up. I was very, very disappointed in him here. At least he could have tried maybe going for an ankle tap, but didn't even try. Just let him run straight through. And it was completely like, defensive error. 7 points to nil to the French. After this, in this same sequence of play, Ruben Love did the high shot. So the All Blacks started off with like just worst possible, right? The bread always falls on the butter side down, as they say. And then the All Blacks goes off 14 player. But then, this is a test match, and this is why the black jersey is well famous. With the play in the bin, they backed themselves. They had an opportunity to kick 3 points. They backed themselves to go for the line out. Didn't take the 3, which I think is the right decision because you control the game. You control where the game is played, and then you run the clock down, right? Even if you don't score, you are less likely to concede points if you camp down inside the opposition 22, right? So I think that's the right decision. And then, of course, the All Blacks actually delivers. They had a 5-meter line out that was stolen, and then Adi Savia turned the ball back with a penalty. He take a quick tap, and then he crashed the ball from the quick tap, and then the ball went out wide. Will Jordan run into the corner. 5 points to 7. The All Blacks strikes back. 14 minutes to the game. The French gets a penalty. They take the 3. 5 points to 10. 20 minutes to the game. The D-Mac gets a nice injection midfield. I thought he did really, really well. I think he got a pass from Ruben Love, and then the ball kind of went out wide to Caleb Clark. He ran down the side field, popped the ball back in field to Peter Larkai. They ran through for the second try. 12 points to 10. All Blacks takes the head. And then French, 29 minutes, gets a penalty, kicks another 3. 12 points to 13. 39 minutes just before halftime. The All Blacks gets another penalty. They went for the line out. Crash ball. Eventually the ball was a crash ball from the rolling Moore, and then from Cody Taylor, and then Roy got looked up. Everyone in the French was running out, trying to defend the center field, and Roy got just went up straight through himself. 19 points to 13, halftime score. Coming out of the second half, the French made a substitution. Hastoy immediately made an impact on the field. 47 minutes on the clock. There was again, Jellybear gets the ball like out wide. He just did a bit of a dance, and then kind of like got a bit of a half break, offload to add nice hand offload, and then another pass down to add a sock bay down the sideline, and he throws the ball back in field to Hastoy, ran through for a try. 19 points to 20, the French takes himself ahead. 50 minutes into the game, the All Blacks gets himself back into the game. They just really flat. You work in the short side seems to work to them quite well. A lot of these moments from both teams actually came from just working the short side and 3 or 4 players passing the ball between themselves down the train tracks almost. And then the All Blacks did it right here with I think it was Jordy Barrett ran down the sideline and then threw the ball back in field to Roy. Again, down sideline, palm like a little one hand pass in field to Roygard, who ran through for the try. 26 points to 20. 53 minutes, it looked like the French scored. There was a high ball, 2 players jumped up, Ruben Love and one of the French players jumped up, and the ball got knocked onto the French side, and they looked like the French score from after that. But it was disallowed because the ball was knocked onto Ruben Love's head, which was a really good call. 59 minutes in the game, the energy from the All Blacks starting to pick up starting to drop a little bit. You can sense it. The French is like grinding. Just really basic stuff, grinding 10, 20, almost 20 faces every time. And then the All Blacks had a poor box kick exit. And then the French just camped inside the All Blacks 22. The ball went out wide to Adesok Bay, just ran in for the try. It was like the All Blacks team just looked completely gassed at this point. 26 points to 25. 65 minutes in the game. The All Blacks takes a 3. All the fans kind of booed a little bit. 17 minutes in the game. The All Blacks finally get themselves back in the game. There's a lot of energy. The French got the ball, and then the All Blacks just flooded the breakdown and got the turnover, and then the ball kind of quickly went out to the open side, all the way down the sideline to Jacobson, who ran down, made a half break, popped the ball back in field to Will Jordan, ran straight through for the try. 36 points to 25. And just before full time, you think that the All Blacks might have done it. Jalibert gets the ball set at field, and again, the All Black players just all look a little bit tired, a little bit switched off. And then Jalibert just ran straight through. Basically, he got the ball and he just went straight through next to the rock over the I think what's his name? The two All Blacks players. I think one of them is Ratimer, who just came on the field as well. He tried to hold him over the try line, and then Jalibert just wrestled the ball free and then dunked the ball on the ground. 34 points to 32, and it looked like France could potentially get a penalty and win the game, but the All Blacks did really well to recover the ball from the kickoff and just grind the clock down, and then finish the game with just like really nice and slow, setting the clock down for the last 2 minutes to win that. 34-32, great win, and very disappointed once again to the French. These moments I think are really important, not just for our fans who worked hard. A lot of people pay hundreds and thousands of dollars to watch these games, to bring their family along, and then you don't show up with your A team, and you could have won, made a history, and could have made a massive impact in the history of rugby, in the popularity of the sport all around the world. And yeah, you disappointed everyone and didn't show up. So it is what it is. I think that the billionaires, we're gonna have to really have to start to understand rugby is not a game for the billionaires. It is a game for everyone, especially my part of the world. And the sooner the French realize this, the sooner it is for not just the French, for everyone all around the world. The game is going to get better. Anyway, let me know your thoughts. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys after the Wallabies game. I got to run. Cheers. See you later.